My name is Mordred Viking, and I'd like to welcome you to this stream of Europa Universalis 4. This is the community multiplayer game of Anbennar. And a few things have changed since the last session. Unfortunately, we had a couple of players dropping out, including some of the big hitters. Arboran, that guy, has decided to pull out, as has Keruvia. So Keruvia, unfortunately, we did not find a replacement for, so Keruvia is going to be open ground for other people to move into, so I would not be at all surprised if we see the Wood Elves in particular striking quickly to grab themselves a big chunk of Keruvia, and quite probably Anbennar as well. Maybe Marhold, although I don't think the Marhold can actually reach them. They have no particular border, and I wouldn't be that surprised if we see Vern trying to get some naval invasions in to take some land, possibly Eberthil as well. So we shall see exactly what happens when the vultures have finished circling around that one in particular. Sindrin, thank you very much for the bits. Fun fact, if you're having second thoughts about booking a vacation to Native American town, then you're having reservation. Oh dear. Okay, so we're just getting in the next group of players, so 4 people were unable to join. Then I will go around and do my usual introductions to introduce all of the players, and by that point we should be unpaused and things should start moving, and we'll, like I said, need to keep a close eye on what's happening to Keruvia, because I very much suspect that's going to be some pretty rapid feasting going on there. It's very unfortunate when there is a large nation like Keruvia and we just don't find a substitute, because it does really mess with the balance in that area. But I do very much suspect that the Wood Elves at Anbennar are going to be the big victors. That's my guess early on, with possibly Eberthil and Vern joining in. Mindboy is back. Mindboy is back, playing as Neckliff still. Not Necklife, but Neckliff. He has not given up. Even after the 1938 declaration of war on the Netherlands yesterday in the Hearts of Iron game, he has still not given up in that one either. He's definitely a trooper. That can certainly be said for him. So just waiting for these 4 players to join. Ah, good, Zale's in. I know that Zale was having some connection issues. So because that guy has dropped out, we needed to get some changes to the mod, which that guy made, which meant that we basically had to switch mods completely because he was no longer willing to update it. So we have got a new one in, and that was causing a couple of small issues. And before we go any further with this, I just want to say no hard feelings towards that guy. That guy has been really good for this game, and I very much hope that we see him again in the future. But I understand the circumstances of why he left, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on, once a couple more people join us today. So, let's go and do our introduction. So we have Boyus Carvo, led by Zale, over here in the New World. We have got Magarma, which is over here. These are the ogres, led by Atos. Next up, we have got Arboran, new player coming in to replace that guy, and this is going to be Anime Tids. Next up, we've got Anbennar, helmed by Arkmill. Then we've got the Phoenix Empire, led by Ardlost. Is that a new player? That might be a substitute. I'm trying to think who's usually Phoenix player. It's like, who is? Trying to remember who usually is Phoenix Empire. It's not him. Then we have got Drakesguard with Aretos. Drakesguard. That would be another colony. But I'm not remembering where it is. Okay, where the heck is Drakesguard? Swampland, Resin-Canned. Drakesguard. It's these guys down here. So that's one of Vern's minions. Then we have got Bjornvar over in Conwell, currently facing off against a giant coalition. They seem to have ticked a few people off, Gnomish Hierarchy style. And speaking of the Gnomish Hierarchy, we've got Commander Faceless in the Gnomish Hierarchy. We've got Dominic down in Eberthil. We have got Holy Victor in Chaos. Then we have got Kerberos Pool in Vern, who is still somehow the Emperor of Arboran. We've got Mindboy over in Neckcliff, and I almost clicked on the usual place that Neckcliff are, but they are currently down here. We've got Oscar in Marhold. We have got Professional Street Mugger in the Small Country. Oh, Small Country is my immediate neighbour in the Kaiserreich game. Right, interesting. I hadn't put those two together. Bjornrik is commanded by Rarely, then Jordland is Rebel Thunder, Jordland being these guys. Next up we have got Smithington in Anbenkost, here in the centre of the Dame's Head. Then we've got Tap Sadist in Geberd, which is the purple dudes down here. Oslamazdir is Tanya, making quite an impressive comeback as the Ram Dwarves. Next up we've got Torshin over in Rubenair, definitely one of the Kingmakers to be, and then Vikes in Sojdelast, which is the Lake Federation. So we have lost a couple of players, including the Rahan player, which I'm very sure Phoenix Empire is now just going to gobble up, especially because there is nothing over here which is player. Ovdal Kanzad still hasn't found a player replacement. Rahan has decided to leave. So all of this, and this is some pretty wealthy territory, is now going to be up for grabs for the Phoenix Empire. So here I am very much expecting to see some very rapid advances from the Phoenix Empire to try and take as much of this as possible, as quickly as possible. And also I'm expecting to see the Wood Elves going after Karuvia. Whether any players will band together to try and protect them, I don't know. I doubt it. But this could definitely be the potential to see the Wood Elves explode in power. And what we've seen of them already, they are pretty well positioned to be very, very strong. Oh, it's, right, yeah, the Wood Elves are not currently here. That is true. That might be why we're still paused. Let me go and double check my messages. Yeah, okay, so Helena's joining in now. And Helena's having the same problems that a couple of us were having with the new mod, but once this is like properly initialized, we should be just fine. So what other conflicts do we imagine will be occurring today? Well, I am very much expecting Escan to continue just being lit up by the flames of war. Marhold has now split from Adenica, but Adenica has found their alliance with Rubenair. So Adenica I'm still expecting to be a major player in this area. I'm expecting Arboran to continue busting a few chops, although with the change of player in Arboran, that's going to also result in a change of diplomacy. So it's going to be interesting to see how Arboran sees their position in the area going forwards. We're of course going to see the feast for Karuvia as people try to grab that as quickly as they can. We might at some point see Geberd versus Conwell, especially because Conwell is having so many problems with coalitions at the moment, and immediately we have a player war, Sojasil versus Magama. So I'm guessing this is the Lake Federation not waiting at all to go after Magama, and it is in fact the Triunic anti-monstrous conquest of Magama, so I was right. 163,000 infantry versus 39, 12,000 cavalry versus 10, 29,000 artillery versus 11,000. So Magama being very much outnumbered at the moment in this particular conflict. I do wonder if Magama is going to be able to find themselves any allies. I think the only one that would really be able to assist them would possibly be Phoenix Empire, in whose interest it would very much be to not let Soldier Sat grow too large. And possibly the Ram Dwarves. The Ram Dwarves are allied to Sinovar and Soldier Sat. Nope, they have aligned themselves with the Lake Federation. Interesting. And we've got the Soldier Sat army going immediately for a Great Hoof group from these guys, which are one of Magama's vassals. Now, I wanted to just take a quick look at Magama's military, because they are an ogre military, which does mean that they have a smaller army. Their siege ability is increased, the looting ability is increased. Right, they do 33% more shock damage, and they take 30% less shock damage, which against centaurs would be very useful, because centaurs are cavalry, they're going to be primarily shock damage. However, the Lake Federation is going to be primarily infantry. Their infantry, how good are they? Using these guys, which are entirely shock damage. So actually the ogres might be okay against that. 5.4 morale versus 3.7. So unfortunately the Lake Federation just have a lot more morale than the ogres, and that probably is due to a technology difference. But we can see here from the damage being done that the ogres are able to dish it out. There's just not enough of them. They do have another stack coming in, however. So Magama, Miltech 12, Miltech 13, and that is going to be, I suspect, the deciding factor, because Miltech 13... Oh no, it's just an artillery buff. Neither side really uses a huge amount of artillery. I thought that might have been a morale buff, so I kind of wonder why Soldier Sat's morale is just so much better. Price of a mile, abolished serfdom, Atcha, Hess, power projection, army tradition, prestige, human military, soldiers of the lake, and then the unit. Versus just Mentosa reform and a bit of army tradition. So yeah, unfortunately, because Soldier Sat's army is just so big and their morale is so overwhelming, I don't think this is going to end very well for Magama, unfortunately. Huzzah, playing Mass Effect finally. Awesome, Mastani. I guess you are now home sweet home. A Mage of Renown. Prestige, money, and something. Except I'm not playing, so I don't really care. Now, Magama. Mage of Renown. Does that mean you have a Mage Ruler? No, you don't. I think that was just an advisor. Potential buff. Meanwhile, we have got some more blue flames. We've got Bias Carvo going up against Grombar, Sevadir, Vern, Busalar, Neklife. Bjarnriki, Holy War against Grombar. So Bjarnrik's going after Grombar. Grombar must be... No? Alright, how has this come about? Grombar versus Bjarnrik. But Grombar is being supported by Vern. Is Vern actually going to fight this? I bet that Vern is the leader of the religion, except Grombar's gone Coronite. Of bloody course they have, and yeah, Vern will be the protector of the faith of Coronite. But it doesn't look like they're actually going to fight. They just did that to preserve their defender of the faith status. Yeah, their armies are just staying here. I think that should become a rule. Like, if the Defender of the Faith doesn't have a certain amount of participation, they lose Defender of the Faith. Because answering these calls to arms, they're not doing anything. That's not answering a call to arms. At all. So this isn't really a player war. It's a fake war. Although Boyce Carvo might be going after Wyvern's Bay. And Boyce Carvo, I think, probably has more on their plate regarding rebels than particularly worrying about this war against Vern. I mean, maybe they'll try. Maybe. Came home on Friday night. Awesome. So I still maintain the real war is the one that's going on down here, where we've got Boyce Carvo coming in against the ogres. 80,000 against 20,000. Ogres are coming in with a bunch more troops, but their starting armies are just too small. They are doing a bunch of damage. Neither side has a particularly strong backline. I feel like the ogres are feeding in troops a little bit too quickly at the moment, but they're probably panicking a little bit just because of the difference in morale. But we've got 70,000 against 40,000, but the ogres are doing like 1,000 damage per tick. Okay, a little bit worse during the fire phases, but during the shock phases, they are dishing it out. Fire phases, however, they are taking it. Unfortunately, the front line did not arrive in time. The ogres should really retreat. Now they're just taking damage to their artillery. Run! Run! This ain't doing you any favours. Leave. Go! Retreat! Withdraw! There you go. So, damage done at the moment, 35,000 dead on Magama's side and 54,000 dead on Soldier Sit's side. Soldier Sit's side. That's hard to say, because it sounds a lot like Soldier Sit's died. Meanwhile, we have got Conwell still fighting their coalition war. Though Conwell did just win a major battle against coalition forces there. And it does look like Conwell has actually managed to push back most of their opponents. Anbennar has joined this war. So I do wonder if Anbennar is actually going to try to help them here. And it does look like they are. So their faithful ally is assisting them in fighting against the Purge of Terman Heresy. This was not actually a coalition. This was a Purge of Heresy, which I think Conwell started. It was. So this was basically to preempt the coalition. They wanted to fight this war on their terms, so they declared war on the coalition. Alright, let's go and take another look over at Margama. So, got some troops being raised in the north, massively over the force limit, double over at the moment, losing 100 ducats a month, but this is basically a do-or-die war. So I kind of understand why they're doing that. They are not getting subsidies from anyone. They are hemorrhaging money like there is no tomorrow. Looks like they're going all in, just taking all of the loans they possibly can right now, so that they have the money that they can raise while they still have territory. Because one of the strategies you can do is take as many loans as you possibly can at the start of a war, so you take the maximum amount of loans and then you just have that as your treasury for the war itself, then you bankruptcy immediately afterwards to get rid of that debt. It's risky. It does allow other players to jump on you, but Margama is pretty isolated. The only one that can really jump on them is Soldier Sit, and what they'll be doing is hoping that this A, wins the war, and then B, the truce between them and Soldier Sit is long enough that the bankruptcy runs out, so that they don't get declared on again while the bankruptcy is live. But Soldier Sit is going in pretty heavy for the attacks here. I'm not convinced that this is a good move by Phoenix Empire, just letting them do this, because these two do have a border, and once Margama is dealt with, who do you think Soldier Sat's going to go for? I think that Soldier Sat's going to go for Margama. They're going to take over the Forbidden Plains. Then they'll probably come knocking down here, either for Jadari or through the pass. They cannot themselves get to Ovdal-Khanzad. Ovdal-Khanzad has no northern-facing entrances. The quickest way to get to them would be through Sagirdir, down there. Because there are no entrances. Oh no, that's not true. There's an entrance here. Dirt Hole Rock. So once they come through here, they could try to blast their way through. But hey, that requires going through Phoenix Empire. So Phoenix Empire, I think, really should be watching the Soldier Sat rise with some concern. And in fact, I would say that Crownvar probably also is going to be concerned, because that is going to be an entrance to the caverns. And we've already seen that Crownvar is concerned about taking over the caverns, although they'll probably go after Ozdamazdir, although Ozdamazdir is allied to Soldier Sat. So yeah, this is definitely a power block that's starting to rise, where I'm sure that we will see some rivalries. Jadari is a vassal of Phoenix Empire, yes. Gun-toting ogres are an awesome idea. Oh, you mean like in Warhammer? Where that's literally what they do. Their pistols are like the size of a small cannon. Yeah, Vern has not come to this assistance at all. And it looks like Grombar is finally going to get gobbled up by Bjornrik, and Bjornrik continues their own expansion, unopposed again by the gnomes, and now probably Adenica is going to be feeling a little bit of pressure. Everwarf is a Bjornrik vassal. Like, Bjornrik's actually really big. It's not just their own country, they also have these two massive vassals down here. In terms of great powers, Bjornrik is now on the list. They've been just below the list for a really long time, but they are now 7th. And Adenica is not on the list. Gnomish Hierarchy is not on the list. Rubenet is just above them, so that's going to be Adenica's ally. But I really do see Bjornrik going after the gnomes and Small Country again. They tried it once, it was pretty successful. They pieced out White Peace for some reason. But they'll probably try again. So we've got another big battle going on here, 20,000 against 30,000. But the coalition forces do have large numbers of additional forces coming in, and the Conwellian front line has just shattered. Their cannon are now in the front line. Reinforcements have arrived. Conwell is forced to retreat. So it does look like that fort is about to fall. However, they have managed to siege down Moonhaven. We've got a second Conwellian army down here in the south, trying to take down Galean. And the Anbennar forces are also down here. Resieging their vassals' territory? No, ally. Not vassals. They're probably trying to keep their ally in this war by retaking their territory before their war enthusiasm drops down to low and they get pieced out. And because this is a coalition war, these guys can't piece any of these guys out with the exception of Woodwell. However, Bucelar... Oh, no, wait. I didn't think this was allowed, but Vern has just joined this war. On the side of Conwell. I guess because it's not a player war, you can have players joining halfway through in an intervention. Or the legendary Cursed Dwarf Earthshaker artillery, where the shells are so massive only ogres can reload it. Interesting. Hopefully we'll be in for some treats with Warhammer 3. Bringing some of that stuff to bear. Meanwhile, Bjarnrik has... No, Vern is pieced out with Bjarnrik, letting the minimum amount of time pass for an acceptable white peace. And that was definitely a fake war. So Helena joining back in again. These are the Wood Elves. And unfortunately the AI Wood Elves took the Golden Age. Which is very unfortunate. One and only JJ, thank you very much for the follow, welcome to the channel. Why did that not appear? Was there a follower notification there? I just saw it out of the corner of my eye. Marhold gets Crisis. I'm so used to reading those events myself now. So we do have a couple of AI wars going on at the moment. So we've got the Imperial Conquest of Zazor Rift against Greedy Grin, which is over here. So making their way towards Ovdal Khanzad. Trying to grab that, I assume, before we get another player in. Arboran, meanwhile, fighting a final war against Gawed. Clinching some of the territory up here so that Bjarnrik can't take it, and then also fighting against Anbenland and Sestriand, which would be over there. Then we've got Phoenix Empire, we've already seen. Drake's Guard, this is the Conwellian War. Boiscavo is fighting against Grombar and Sevadier, so that's on the side of Bjarnrik. Drake's Guard we've seen. Chaos, I imagine, is continuing their taking over of these regions. So we've got Agramos and Apikoxi. So
So yeah, continuing their conquest down here. Caius has been a little bit slow off the bat, but they should be growing again. Caius might have another player as well. Hang on, who's Caius's player? Holy Victor. Right, Holy Victor was somewhere else. Holy Victor might have been the Rahan player who's moved over to Caius to replace that player, I think. Mindboy in Neckcliff currently fighting against Dusonal. The hell it is Sonal? Over... oh, in here. Oh yeah, you do have an adjacency. Like, looking at all the grey, I'm like, this is just uncolonised territory. No, it's Neckcliff. Then we've got Bjornrik going up against Grombar, as we have seen. Then we've got Smithington and Anbencost helping out Conwell. And then Rubenair is going against Duran at last. And I would imagine that's also going to involve Duran's vassals, although it doesn't actually look like they have very many. And there is going to be definitely a little bit of a contest up here, because we've got Duran colonies, we've got Gnomish Hierarchy colony and Bjornrik colony, all sharing the same area. And then Soldier Sill, of course, going against Magama. And Magama not really having much that they can do about this. Is Kirkoli one of their allies? Yeah, it's a vassal. So Magama is actually pretty big. Like, they do have all of this territory. But considering that Lake Federation is now just united, there really isn't much they can do about this. This conquest does seem kind of inevitable. And they've got another 8-9 months until they're bankrupt. Oh no, they can take a little bit more, but I'm not sure just how much they will be able to afford to take. Lake Fed land is way more available. Way more valuable. Yes, it definitely is. But wait, just wanted to pop in and say the multiplayer game yesterday was great, and thanks CPM for organising and for you to having such a great community. Thank you very much for that, Poet. And yes, I agree. If you missed out on the Hearts of Iron 4 action where I'm actually playing as opposed to doing the commentary, you should definitely check out the VOD from yesterday's stream. I will probably upload it onto YouTube in a week or so, just to give myself a bit more of a backlog before I start doing that. But it was a really good game. Everyone was super, super friendly, and like the build-up to probable war in the future has been pretty smooth so far. It's been a pleasure being in that one, and thank you to everyone involved in organising it. It's been fun. And you can see myself playing as the mighty Two Sicilies, where we have turned from feudalism to shipism and try to become the shipyard of the world, although I haven't actually built a single dockyard yet. Shh, don't tell anyone.